In this video, we will show you the lysozyme isolation steps before the ion exchange chromatography. We will start by labeling 6 1.5 milliliter tubes with F0, F1, F2, F3, F4, and another F4. We will take a pipette to get 1 milliliter out of our lysozyme solution from the last step, containing 5 milliliters of egg white and 25 milliliters of buffer A. In this YouTube link you can find a description how to use a pipette. Here we will use the biggest pipettes showing 1000 microliter because it equals 1 milliliter. Now we will start to pipette. Open all caps, get a pipette and a pipette tip. Press the pipette bottom down, insert it into our lysozyme sample solution, and slowly let go of the bottom to let it into the pipette tip. Always work on eye level. Open the tube called F0 and insert it in there. Close all caps, discard the pipette tip and put the pipette back. All tubes are placed on ice as long as we don't need to work with it. In the next step, we need to put 1 gram of dry CM matrix into 30 milliliter of the diluted egg white. So we weigh the according amount of the matrix, open the egg white tube and drop the matrix into it. Take the tube and drop the matrix in. You can get a pipette and put some drops of the solution onto the weighing dish to make sure that every particle of the matrix gets inserted. Take a glass rod and stir the solution. The mixture of the diluted egg white with the matrix is now incubated at room temperature for 20 minutes while stirring. For our next step, a centrifuge is used, and therefore we need to prepare a counterweight. Weigh the diluted egg white plus matrix. The easiest way is to first weigh the placeholder and set it to 0. And then get the counterweight tube and fill it up with water. Because of the density of water, we can add the weight of our solution in water to the other tube. Always insert everything at eye level. In our case, the tube weighed 41 gram, so we add 41 milliliter to the counterweight tube. Set the settings of the centrifuge to 4000 rounds per minute and 7 minutes. Contact the supervisor for that. Then press the open button, add the labeled sample and counterweight tube in the positions directly opposite of each other and close the centrifuge. Then press the start button. The centrifuge will speed up to 4000 rounds per minute, And then we'll count down the 7 minutes we need. Here in this picture, 3 minutes are left. When the centrifuge is finished, press the open button, take out the sample tube and leave the counterweight in there because we will centrifuge again. You can see that the supernatant and a pellet is created at the bottom of the tube. In the next step, we need to collect 1 milliliter of the supernatant into the tube F1. Therefore, we again use the 1000 microliter pipette. We take out 1 milliliter of our sample at eye level. We open the tube labeled F1 and insert our 1 milliliter sample in there. We close the tube, discard the pipette tip, and then also put the tube F1 onto ice. After we took our sample, we need to remove the supernatant in the tube. We use a pipette for that. But be careful to not touch the pellet. Discard the supernatant in a beaker and repeat the step as long as you need to get all of the supernatant out of the tube. Again, be careful to not remove the pellet. When you're done, discard the pipette. Before we will centrifuge again, we have to add 25 milliliter of buffer A into the sample again. Use a pipette and add 25 milliliter onto the pellet. Always work on eye level so that you can see the exact amount that you insert into the pipette. Pour buffer A into the tube at eye level. Discard the pipette and close buffer A. You need to stir the solution with a glass rod again before putting it in the centrifuge again for 7 minutes at 4000 rounds per minute. Put the tube into the centrifuge, close it, and press the start button. When the centrifuge is done, we again have to take 1 milliliter of the supernatant and put it into the tube labeled F2. Discard the pipette tip and also store this tube on ice. Use the pipette again to remove the supernatant. Be very careful to only remove the supernatant with the pipette and not touch the pellet. And in this step we again need to add 25 ml of buffer A into the sample again. Remember to always work on eye level. Discard the pipette, close buffer A, and again stir the tube with a glass rod. Repeat all these steps for the tube of F3. After you have taken the sample of tube F3 and removed the supernatant, you have to add 10 ml of buffer B now. Use a pipette to get 10 ml and discard it afterwards. Also, don't forget to stir again. In this centrifugation step, you need to again weigh your counterweight because of the buffer B now used. Then you close the centrifuge and press the start button. We again use the settings of 4000 rounds per minute for 7 minutes. When the centrifuge is done, take out our tube, get a 1000 microliter pipette again, get a tip, and remove again 1 milliliter of our sample into the first tube labeled F4. The tube is closed and also put into the ice. Remove the pipette tip and get a new one to again insert 1 milliliter of our sample into the second tube of F4. Also, the second F4 tube is placed into the ice so that all 6 tubes are in the ice. Remove the pipette tip, lay back the pipette, close all caps, and clean your working space.